The fleet captain's voice cut through the room like a sharpened blade. "You call yourself a cadet?" he sneered, leaning over the polished console, eyes cold and calculating. "I've seen toddlers with more courage than you. What are you even doing here?" Laughter rippled through the other officers, sharp and mocking. The human cadet stood perfectly still, fists clenched, heart thundering in their chest. The heat of embarrassment burned across their face, but they refused to lower their gaze. A flicker of movement caught the cadet's eye behind the captain. It was subtle at first, a shadow slinking along the edge of the room. Then came the sound, a low, guttural growl that vibrated in the bones of everyone present. Heads turned, laughter dying instantly. The air grew heavy with tension as glowing amber eyes emerged from the darkness. A massive bear, unlike any creature the fleet had catalogued, stepped into view, its fur bristling, metallic streaks along its shoulders hinting at bioengineering. The growl deepened, a warning rumble that made the floor tremble slightly. The captain froze, lips parting in disbelief. What is that?" he whispered, stepping back instinctively. The cadet took a slow, steadying breath. "He's my partner," they said calmly, voice carrying more authority than before. "And you just made a mistake." The officers around the room exchanged uneasy glances, some drawing back, others gripping their tools and weapons instinctively. One lieutenant, trying to break the tension, asked, "Cadet, is that dangerous?" The cadet's eyes narrowed. "He's not here to harm anyone unless they threaten me, or the crew. And right now you threaten both." The bear's growl shifted, a deep vibration that seemed to echo the cadet's resolve. The creature moved closer, slow and deliberate, muscles rippling under its thick coat, each step radiating power and silent menace. The captain straightened, chest puffed out, trying to reclaim control. "I am the fleet captain. You," his words were cut short as the bear leaned its massive head forward, letting out a resonant snarl that shook the metal walls. It was not merely a threat, it was a judgment. The captain's confident stance faltered, a flicker of fear crossing his sharp features. For the first time, the cadet saw him hesitate, the unwavering authority cracking ever so slightly. Whispers moved through the room. Officers who had laughed a moment ago now stepped back, uncertain, eyes darting between the cadet and the bear. Even seasoned soldiers felt the tension coil around them, an invisible force gripping their nerves. The cadet stood tall, chest rising and falling steadily, as if drawing power from the silence that followed. A cold clarity settled over them. The laughter and scorn had vanished, replaced with something far heavier, respect born from fear, the kind that cannot be commanded but must be earned. "You," the captain said, voice tight, "this is insubordination." The cadets shook their heads slightly. "It's not insubordination to survive," they said. "And it's not clever to mock someone you don't understand." The bear's eyes glowed brighter, pupils narrowing, every line of its massive body taut with readiness. A single step forward sent the captain stumbling back another foot, his voice faltering as he tried to maintain authority. A young ensign whispered, unable to hide her awe. I didn't know humans could." Her sentence trailed off. The cadet glanced at her, then back at the captain. "Humans adapt," they said quietly, the weight of the words filling the room. "We survive when others would fail." The bear exhaled, a low hiss that seemed almost like agreement, a sound that resonated deep in the chest of everyone present. The captain straightened once more, but the fire in his eyes had dimmed. He glanced at the officers, then back at the cadet, realization creeping into his expression. The mocking tone, the laughter, even the disdain, none of it mattered now. The cadet was no ordinary trainee. The bear had proven that humans could command what no one else dared approach. The room had shifted in an instant, from scorn to something charged, almost electric, as the officers began to see the human in a new light. The cadet took a step closer to the bear, hand brushing lightly against its shoulder. "He's not just a companion," the cadet said softly, voice carrying an unspoken warning. "He's proof that underestimating us is dangerous." The captain swallowed hard, trying to find words, but none came. The room, once full of jeers and arrogance, now hummed with tense anticipation. The bear shifted, settling slightly but never losing its threatening posture, eyes fixed on the captain. Silence stretched, heavy and charged, broken only by the low rumble of the creature's breathing. The cadet's calm confidence radiated outward, contagious in its intensity, and even the fleet captain had to admit, without a word spoken, that this human was unlike any they had seen before. Finally, the cadet turned slightly, nodding toward the officers. "Let's continue," they said. The bear's growl softened but did not vanish, a lingering reminder of the power now standing with the human. The captain stepped aside, chest tight, aware that the hierarchy had subtly shifted. Respect was earned today, not by rank or title but by courage, calm, and the silent strength of a human paired with a creature no one else could control. The room exhaled collectively, tension easing but the lesson settling deep. Underestimating humans was no longer an option. The cadet and the bear remained at the center, silent, commanding, and undeniably alive with a force that even the fleet captain could not ignore. The cadet moved through the dimly lit corridors of the fleet ship, the bear following silently, every step precise and deliberate. The officers who had once laughed now watched from a distance, unease etched into their faces. Whispers carried through the metal hallways but no one dared approach. Even the fleet captain, walking behind them, kept a careful distance, eyes flicking nervously between the cadet and the massive creature. A sudden alarm blared, red lights flashing across the walls. The ship shook, a violent shudder that sent tools clattering to the floor. "What now?" one of the lieutenants shouted, panic rising in their voice. The cadet's eyes narrowed, scanning the corridor for the source. "Calm down," they said firmly. "Panic won't solve this. We need to find it fast." The bear's growl rumbled low, sensing the tension, muscles tensing as it moved beside the cadet like a shadow. At the engine bay, the cadet found smoke curling from a console, wires sparking dangerously. "Sabotage," the cadet muttered under their breath. Officers froze, unsure whether to act or wait. The fleet captain barked orders, but the cadet ignored him, kneeling beside the damaged panel. Their hands moved quickly, skillfully, guided by instinct and knowledge that no one had expected from someone so young. The bear leaned closer, watching, its massive head casting a shadow over the cadet's work, almost protective. "You can't fix that in time," an engineer shouted, stepping forward. The cadet didn't respond, hands flying over the controls. Sparks flared, smoke stung their eyes, but they kept going, driven by a steady determination. "Watch closely," the cadet said, voice calm but firm. "Sometimes the unexpected solves what the expected cannot." The bear growled again, a warning that drew the attention of the remaining officers, a silent signal that whatever moved next, they were not alone. A hidden panel slid open in the shadows and a figure emerged, a small, lithe alien operative, moving quickly to sabotage another console. Before anyone could react, the bear lunged. Its massive paws landed with precise force, pinning the intruder without crushing it. The alien hissed, claws slashing, but the bear's strength was overwhelming, holding it in place while the cadet leapt forward, pulling a stun device from their belt. A flash of blue light and the intruder went still, convulsing briefly before collapsing. The officers gaped. How did you do that?" one whispered. The cadet stood, chest heaving slightly, hand brushing the bear's fur. "It's about trust," they said quietly. "He trusts me and I trust him. That trust makes us stronger than any one of you imagined." The bear's amber eyes glowed and a low growl rolled through its throat, a wordless promise that nothing would threaten the cadet while it stood there. The captain's face was pale, jaw tight, his earlier arrogance gone. You've controlled that creature?" he asked, voice shaking. The cadet met his gaze steadily. "Not controlled," they corrected. "We cooperate. You can't force respect or loyalty. You earn it." The crew exchanged uneasy glances, realization dawning that this human wasn't merely surviving, they were leading in a way that defied expectations. Another alarm echoed through the ship, this one more urgent. Red lights flashed faster, and the hum of the engines grew erratic. "Multiple systems compromised," a technician shouted. Panic threatened to spread again, but the cadet raised a hand, stopping them. "Stay calm," they said. "Follow me and trust what you see, not what you fear." The bear shifted, padding silently beside the cadet, a living shield, muscles coiled and ready. They moved quickly through the corridors, finding another alien operative attempting to override the ship's navigation. Without hesitation, the cadet signaled the bear. In a single, fluid motion, the bear tackled the intruder to the floor, growling, holding them down as the cadet moved in with precision strikes. Officers watched in awe as the human and bear worked together seamlessly, an unspoken rhythm, deadly and efficient. After neutralizing the threat, the cadet stood in the middle of the hallway, chest rising and falling. "This isn't about strength alone," they said softly, almost to themselves, but loud enough for others to hear. "It's about partnership. Knowing who will stand with you when the unexpected strikes." The bear leaned its massive head against the cadet's shoulder, a silent affirmation of their bond. The captain stepped closer, trying to mask his astonishment. "You saved this ship," he said, voice tight with grudging respect. and no one else could have done it. The cadet met his gaze evenly. Sometimes survival requires more than numbers or rank, they said. Sometimes it requires understanding, patience, and allies you don't expect. The officers murmured, tension softening but awe lingering. As the ship's system stabilized, the cadet walked through the engine bay, the bear close behind, eyes scanning for any further threats. The crew began to whisper among themselves, realizing that the human cadet had changed the rules of engagement. No longer was this a mere trainee, they were a force of nature, a living proof that humans could turn the impossible into reality. The captain remained silent, studying the cadet and the bear, the weight of his earlier insult hanging unspoken in the air. The cadet didn't gloat. They only nodded slightly, acknowledging both the danger they had faced and the bond that had kept them alive. The bear's growl softened, almost like a purr, and the cadet allowed themselves a small, satisfied smile. In the shadows of the ship, a new understanding settled. Humans could inspire loyalty, earn respect, and survive where others would falter. And with allies that defied expectation, even the deadliest threats could be met with calm determination and precise action. The crew's whispers of doubt had shifted into murmurs of cautious admiration, and the cadet knew that this was only the beginning of proving what humans could achieve. The ship vibrated violently, metal groaning under the sudden strain. Alarms screamed through the corridors, red lights flashing in harsh bursts. Officers scrambled, voices overlapping in panic, while the cadet moved calmly, bear at their side, muscles tense, ears attuned to every sound. "Something's wrong," the cadet muttered, scanning the hallways. Smoke curled from vents, and sparks leapt from a panel near the navigation hub. A lieutenant stumbled past, shouting over the noise. "Sabotage. Systems failing everywhere." The cadet didn't flinch. "Stay focused," they ordered, voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to isolate the source." The bear growled low, sensing the threat before it appeared, ears twitching, body coiled like a spring ready to strike. Officers instinctively moved behind the duo, awe and fear mixing on their faces. Rounding a corner, the cadet spotted the first saboteur, an alien operative with slick, dark skin and glinting claws, trying to override the engine control. Its movements were fast, precise, but predictable under the cadet's sharp eyes. "Not today," the cadet said, reaching for a stun baton. The bear sprang forward simultaneously, its massive paws pinning the alien while the cadet struck with a controlled flash of electricity. The alien thrashed, claws sparking against the bear's reinforced fur, but the creature's strength held it in place effortlessly. The fleet captain arrived moments later, pale and tense. "Cadet, what's happening? How did this?" He froze as another alarm blared. The cadet ignored him, eyes scanning for more threats. "There's more," they said. "Follow me if you want to survive." The captain hesitated but fell in line, officers trailing behind, uncertainty and fear shadowing their steps. Smoke thickened the corridor, hiding movement in its gray haze. The cadet raised a hand, signaling the bear to stay alert. "They're trying to get to the command core," the cadet said. "If they succeed, we're dead before we even reach the enemy." A soft hiss echoed from the shadows. Another operative slinked forward, nearly invisible, moving between consoles with deadly precision. The cadet lunged, knocking a tool tray into the alien, while the bear blocked its escape. Sparks flew as claws scraped metal, tension thick in the smoke-filled air. "You underestimated us," the cadet shouted, voice steady, eyes flashing determination. The alien hissed, twisting violently, but the bear's weight pinned it down, growls vibrating through the corridor like rolling thunder. Officers held their breath, watching the human and creature move as one, a force of instinct and strategy. The cadet moved swiftly to disable the alien's devices. Fingers danced over controls, overriding corrupted circuits with careful precision. Another flash of electricity, another shudder through the ship, and the immediate threat collapsed. Officers exchanged looks of disbelief. "How is one cadet doing all this?" a young ensign whispered. The cadet glanced at them, calm but resolute. "Preparation, observation, and allies you never expect," they said, tapping the bear's side lightly. The captain shook his head, still pale, his authority diminished. I didn't know humans could," he stopped, unable to finish. The cadet didn't need his praise, they only needed focus. Another alarm cut through, louder, angrier, and the floor shuddered again. "Multiple breaches," a technician shouted. "They're everywhere." Officers froze, panic threatening to rise again, but the cadet raised a hand. "Follow me," they said. "Don't scatter. Stick together." Through smoke and sparks, They navigated the ship, Cadet leading, Bear beside them like a living shield. They reached the central hub where the largest breach was taking place. A trio of alien operatives worked in unison, overriding the ship's main systems. The cadet's eyes narrowed, calculating, scanning the room, finding weaknesses. "He's mine," the cadet said softly, pointing to the largest operative. The bear lunged immediately, massive paws slamming into the alien, throwing it against the console with a deafening crash. Sparks flew, alarms blaring, and the other two hesitated. The cadet moved with precision, disabling the devices with a rapid series of overrides. Blue sparks flashed from a panel as the ship shuddered violently. One operative tried to escape, but the bear intercepted, forcing it back into the cadet's path. With a swift strike from the stun baton, the final threat went down, convulsing briefly before silence settled. The crew exhaled as the tension lifted slightly. Officers looked at the cadet with new respect, their previous doubts replaced with awe. The captain, still pale, spoke, voice tight. "You saved the ship." The cadet shook their head. "We survived it," they corrected, glancing at the bear, which let out a soft, low rumble in agreement. "It's not about one person or one creature. It's about working together, staying calm under pressure, and expecting the unexpected." The captain nodded slowly, the lesson sinking in despite himself. "Perhaps humans have more to offer than I imagined," he said quietly. The cadet didn't respond, scanning the corridors for remaining threats. Every officer knew the human had changed everything. No one had imagined that a single cadet, paired with an alien-like bear, could neutralize a coordinated sabotage on a heavily armed fleet ship. As the alarms quieted, the cadet allowed themselves a brief moment to breathe. The bear leaned against them, massive head resting lightly on their shoulder, a silent acknowledgement of their bond. Officers whispered among themselves, the stories of the cadet's calm, strategy, and bravery spreading quickly. Even in the shadow of danger, the cadet had proven that survival, intelligence, and unexpected allies could turn the tide. The captain remained silent, staring at the pair, the weight of his earlier arrogance heavy in the room. The cadet walked slowly toward the central console, Bear following, eyes scanning, ready for whatever came next. In that moment, every officer understood something fundamental. Underestimating humans, and their unpredictable allies, was no longer an option. The fleet had barely regained its bearings when the first warning lights flashed across the bridge. The cadets stood at the edge of the command platform, fingers gripping the rail as the bear pressed against their side, massive and alert. Sensors beeped violently, displaying red blips moving fast across the holographic map. Alien warships, far more numerous than expected, were converging on the fleet. Officers froze, panic in their eyes, while the captain barked orders, voice sharp but tense. "This can't be happening," the captain shouted, trying to regain control. "We're prepared for patrols, not an ambush of this scale." The cadet stepped forward, calm despite the flashing lights and blaring alarms. "Preparedness isn't enough," they said, eyes locked on the screen. "We have to be clever. Predictable strategies will get us destroyed." The bear growled low, rumbling through the metal floor, muscles coiled, a living engine of strength ready to act. A sudden tremor rocked the bridge as a smaller alien strike team darted past the fleet's shields, their sleek vessels slipping into blind spots. "They're too fast," one officer cried, panicked. The cadet's jaw tightened. "Then we become faster. Less predictable. Split their focus." They pointed to the bear, and officers froze in disbelief as the massive creature seemed to respond instantly, glowing eyes scanning the bridge as if reading the threat. "Cadet, that bear, how do you?" the captain began, but the cadet ignored him. "Diversion," they said, voice low. "And don't underestimate instinct." The bear leapt toward the observation window, smashing through it without hesitation. Officers gasped as the creature hurled itself through zero gravity toward an incoming strike team. Its roar echoed through the hull, a bone-deep warning that shook both metal and morale. The alien pilots faltered, momentarily thrown off by the unexpected assault. The cadet activated the fleet's emergency drones, sending them spiraling around the ambushers. Lights flickered, fire erupted from the ships, and the battle became chaotic, a storm of metal and energy. The bear struck again, body crashing into one of the alien vessels, ripping panels and sensors apart. Officers watched, awestruck, as one human and one enormous creature disrupted an entire attack formation. "Impossible!" the captain yelled, gripping the console as a stray energy blast sent sparks flying nearby. "This isn't how battles are supposed to go." The cadet's eyes blazed. "Nothing about this is normal," they said. We don't fight by their rules. We fight by ours. The bear's roar echoed, vibrating through the bridge like a drum of war, forcing officers to stop and witness raw power combined with sharp human strategy. One of the alien ships pierced the fleet's outer defenses, energy beams slicing through shielding. The cadets' mind raced. "We need bait," they muttered, gesturing toward the bear. The massive creature understood instantly, moving to intercept the ship. It slammed into the hull with a thunderous impact, sending debris and sparks spiraling across the void. The bridge shook violently, but the fleet's attention shifted, giving their remaining ships time to regroup. "Cadet, you're risking everything," the captain shouted, fear breaking through his rigid tone. The cadet didn't flinch. Sometimes risking everything is the only way to survive. Officers watched in tense silence as the bear unleashed a second assault, smashing through another enemy ship, ripping it apart with unmatched force. The aliens faltered, thrown into chaos by the sheer audacity of the human and their companion. A sudden transmission flashed across the bridge, alien signals scrambling, attempting to regroup. "They're calling reinforcements," an officer said nervously. The cadets' eyes narrowed. "Then we force them to overcommit," they said. "We make the first strike the last mistake they ever make." Officers glanced at one another, fear and hope mingling. They had never seen tactics like this, human intuition guiding a creature that defied expectation. As the alien formation grew disorganized, the cadet gave a subtle signal. The bear pivoted, charging with precision at the largest warship, striking its hull with devastating power. Explosions erupted, lighting the dark void with fire and debris. Officers on the bridge cheered, some too stunned to move, others following the cadets' commands with precision they hadn't believed themselves capable of. The captain's face was pale, jaw tight. I can't believe it," he muttered. "One cadet, and that beast?" The cadet didn't answer. Their eyes scanned the battlefield, calculating, ready for the next move. The bear circled, massive and alert, guarding the cadet as ships collided, systems sparked and the ambushers floundered. Fear had shifted, the humans were no longer prey. Finally, the remaining alien vessels retreated, badly damaged and scattered, their assault broken. Officers exhaled, some collapsing into chairs, some staring at the cadet with awe. The bear let out a triumphant growl, chest heaving, fur singed in places but unbowed. The cadet placed a hand on its shoulder, steadying themselves. "We survived," they said quietly. "But the fight isn't over. There's always more waiting in the dark." The captain remained silent, watching the cadet and the bear, the full weight of respect finally settling in. The bridge, once tense with fear and insult, now hummed with a cautious admiration. The human had shown that strategy, courage, and unexpected allies could turn near certain defeat into a hard-won victory. Officers whispered, eyes wide, realizing that a new type of leader had emerged. One who didn't rely on rank but on instinct, intelligence, and bonds no one else could imagine. The cadet stepped back, gaze steady, ready for whatever came next. The bear stayed close, alert, growling softly at the shadows, a silent promise that any threat would be met with both human ingenuity and unstoppable power. In the silence after chaos, the fleet understood one truth: the human and their companion had changed the game, and no ambush or enemy would ever be underestimated again. The fleet floated in the quiet aftermath of the battle, hulls scarred, shields flickering, and the distant stars glinting coldly through the observation windows. Officers moved cautiously, repairing damage, checking systems, but their eyes kept drifting to the cadet and the bear, still standing together at the center of the bridge. The tension of disbelief hadn't left the room. Instead, it had settled into a profound awareness. Humans were no longer just part of the fleet, they were a force to be reckoned with. The captain approached slowly, every step deliberate. His hands were clenched behind his back, jaw tight, but his expression was softer than it had ever been before. "Cadet," he said quietly, voice low, almost hesitant. "You've done more than any of us imagined. You saved lives. You saved this fleet." The cadet's gaze met his, steady, unflinching, but their voice was calm. "I didn't do it alone," they said. The bear shifted, brushing its massive side against the cadet as if reinforcing the point. Officers whispered among themselves, amazed at the seamless partnership. A young ensign stepped forward, wide-eyed. "Cadet, how do you manage?" The cadet smiled faintly, though tiredness showed around their eyes. "Understanding," they said simply. "Patience. Awareness. And knowing that survival isn't about strength alone, it's about connection. About trust." The bear exhaled, a low rumble that echoed through the bridge as though agreeing. Officers stared in awe, realizing that the cadet had changed not only the rules of engagement but the very perception of what humans were capable of. The captain shook his head, taking a deep breath. "I insulted you," he admitted, his tone heavy with regret. "I thought you were insignificant. I misjudged you." The cadet's expression softened slightly. "You did," they said. "But mistakes can be corrected. Respect isn't demanded, it's earned." The captain nodded slowly, swallowing his pride. "I see that now. I see you." Before the captain could continue, the ship's sensors blared again. Officers froze as red blips flashed across the holographic display. "Incoming transmission," a technician reported, voice tight. The cadet moved forward, scanning the incoming signals. "Not a warning," they said, lips pressed together. "A message. From a fleet we haven't encountered before. Larger. Far more powerful." Anxiety rippled through the room. Officers whispered, eyes wide. The captain's face tightened. "How far?" he asked. The cadet's eyes were cold, calculating. "Beyond the sector. They're sending scouts ahead. They know something has changed here. They know us." The bear growled low, a warning that even the seasoned officers felt in their bones. The threat was bigger than anything they had faced. The cadet turned to the captain, voice firm. "We've proven we can survive ambushes. But this is a new scale. We need preparation, vigilance, and trust, more than ever." The captain nodded, swallowing hard. "I understand," he said quietly. "And, you'll lead this preparation?" The cadet looked at the bear, then back at the captain. "We will," they said. "Together." The bear rumbled, brushing against the cadet, a living shield, a reminder that the unexpected could become the strongest ally. Officers felt a strange mixture of fear and admiration. They were witnessing the emergence of a human who could stand at the center of danger and bend it with courage and strategy. A calm officer piped up nervously. "Sir, the scouts, they're moving faster than any fleet we've tracked. They'll arrive soon." The cadet's jaw tightened, gaze scanning the sensors. "Then we prepare faster," they said. "We adapt. We survive. And if they underestimate humans, they will pay the price." Officers exchanged glances, a shiver of excitement and tension running through them. The cadet's calm focus, combined with the bear's sheer power, had shifted fear into readiness. The captain finally spoke, voice quiet but resolute. "Cadet, you've shown us what it means to fight when the odds are against you. You've earned our trust, and our respect. Whatever comes next, we follow your lead." The cadet nodded once, slowly. "Trust must be earned," they replied, "and sometimes fear teaches respect better than words ever could." The bear's growl deepened, echoing through the bridge like a promise of protection and power. Beyond the fleet, the unknown alien scouts moved silently, unaware of the human and the bear who would meet them. Within the fleet, officers began coordinating repairs and strategy, their nervous energy replaced by focus and anticipation. The cadet stood at the center, a calm anchor in a sea of tension, the bear ever watchful at their side. Together they were a symbol, a warning that humans were unpredictable, dangerous, and resilient in ways no one had truly measured. Stars flashed by the observation windows, distant and cold, as the fleet prepared for what was coming. The cadet's eyes reflected the lights, sharp, determined, unyielding. "This is only the beginning," they said softly, almost to themselves. "And we will be ready." The bear's growl rolled low, a living echo of the human's determination. Officers whispered in awe, realizing that a new era had begun, one where humans could not be underestimated and where survival, cunning, and unexpected allies could change the fate of entire fleets. The captain, standing silently, finally allowed himself to believe it. Respect had been won, lessons learned, and warnings given, not through rank or fear but through courage, calm, and the undeniable bond between a human and the creature no one else could command. And somewhere in the shadows of space, unseen threats were taking note, knowing that when humans led with heart, strategy, and allies the galaxy hadn't imagined, even the most powerful enemies would hesitate.